Hi, thank you so much for joining me, and I'm really excited that you are interested in learning how to buy your first home ever. My name is Karin Carr. I am a realtor with Keller Williams Coastal Area Partners, and I am going to share with you everything you need to know about how to buy your first house. Now, I am in Georgia, so if you are not, that's okay. As long as you're still in the United States, these tips are going to apply to probably 95% of the people. If you're outside of the country, I'm not sure I can help you. Better watch a different video. We are going to break this series up into 3 different videos because I felt that if it were one 30-minute video, nobody would ever watch it. So here we go. Let's start with tip number 1. What is tip number 1? Are you ready financially? So you need to have a credit score of preferably above 640. There are lenders who can go lower, maybe 620. Some will even go down to 580, but you're going to pay a lot more for that loan. So if at all possible, get your credit score up above 640. If you don't know how exactly to do that, we can have you talk with a loan officer, or you can go somewhere like myfico.com, which will give you lots of great tips on how to raise your credit score. If you don't know what your credit score is, go somewhere like Credit Karma or one of those free services that will tell you what your credit score is at no charge without having to sign up for anything. Now let's talk about how much money you really need to buy the house. Most people should expect on spending 3.5% of the sales price of the house as their down payment. This is what an FHA loan requires. Now there are military buyers, whether you are active duty or retired, or maybe you just did a couple of years and you got out, you're not considered retired, but you would still qualify for a VA loan. VA loan will require 0 money down for the down payment. There are also things like a USDA loan, which is where you live in a more rural area and you can qualify for 0 down if you are considered a low to moderate income borrower. There are also lots of government grants and programs that give you down payment assistance. So it is possible to buy a house with no down payment, but plan on having 3.5% down in case you don't qualify for any of those. There are also closing costs. Closing costs, basically the fees involved with the privilege of borrowing the bank's money for the next 30 years. So they are fees that your bank is going to charge you for getting a loan from them. There will be title insurance where they will make sure that the person selling you the house has the legal right to do so. And after you buy it, nobody can come back and say, hey, I'm actually the rightful owner of that house. Therefore, you can't have sold it to them. There are the fees that your title or escrow company or closing attorney will charge for handling the entire transaction as kind of a neutral third party. All of those are considered closing costs. Those typically run 3 to 4% of the sales price of the house. So let's say we're talking about a $200,000 house. If you had 3.5% for your down payment, what is that? $5,250, and then roughly that same amount for your closing costs. Now you can ask the seller to pay for your closing costs. You can ask for the entire thing. You can ask for 50% of it. If your closing costs were going to be $5,250, you could say, would you chip in $3,000? You can always ask that. The seller doesn't have to say yes, but if you make your offer very financially attractive to them in other ways, then perhaps they'd be happy to do that. That's less money out of pocket for you. Have you been gainfully employed for the last year? You're going to need to show that you've got income. You're going to have to prove that you've got a way to pay your mortgage. And that can also come from things like alimony, child support, but you're going to have to document your income and show what you can afford so that they can tell you what sort of monthly payment you'd be able to afford. And finally, do you have any money saved up? You can buy a house with no money down, but if all of your money, like if you move into the house and you've got no money whatsoever, what happens if, heaven forbid, a kid throws a baseball through your window and it's not going to be covered by your homeowner's insurance? You've got to pay to fix that. If you've got no money in the bank, it's going to be really stressful. So you don't have to have $20,000 in the bank, but you do need to have some sort of nest egg saved up if you want to feel comfortable being a homeowner. You're going to have to start mowing the lawn yourself. You're going to have to fix anything that breaks without calling your landlord. So make sure that you are ready to do these things and that you have a little bit of money set aside so that when those surprises happen, you're able to take care of them. Tip number 2, find a great realtor. Now, a lot of first-time buyers don't know that it doesn't cost anything to work with a real estate agent to help you find a house. When a seller decides they're going to sell their house, they tell their agent, I will pay you this much to sell it, and I will pay this much to the agent that represents the buyer. So the seller pays our fee. The buyer does not pay. You get professional representation from a professional real estate agent, but somebody else foots the bill. Now, having said that, just because you're not the one paying for it doesn't mean that you don't have the right to interview people. You don't have to go with your grandma's best friend's daughter who just got her license last Thursday simply because you know this person. Maybe you grew up with her and you're great friends, and if you want to use them, that's fantastic. But are they necessarily the best person to represent your best interests in probably the largest financial transaction that you've ever made in your life so far? Maybe not. So if you're going to interview an agent, here are some good things that you can ask them. How many buyers do you typically represent in a year? There are plenty of real estate agents who almost primarily work with sellers. If they haven't had the option of working with a buyer in the past 6 months, maybe they're not the best person to work for you. How many buyers do you represent at one time? If they tell you 15, that means that they have a team and they are going to have you working with an assistant the majority of the time. There is simply no way that you can be working with 15 buyers at any one given time. There are not enough hours in the day. Are you full-time or are you part-time? I know a lot of agents who maybe they are nurses or they are police officers or they are teachers, and they've decided to go into real estate, but they're still trying to do their other job full-time. How much time are they going to have available to show you properties when they work 8 to 5? Do you have any recent reviews or testimonials? These are important. You want to know what other people have said about this agent. What is it like working with them? Go read those testimonials. If those clients will agree to be contacted, no reason why you can't send them an email or call them and say, how was it to work with this person? Tip number 3, get pre-approved. If you have a bank that you use locally and you love them, by all means, go in and talk to them, find out what they can offer in terms of a mortgage. Or once you've hired an agent, ask that agent, who do you work with regularly that has a great loan program for first-time buyers? We work with these lenders every single day and we will gladly give you their information. We do not receive any sort of compensation or kickback for recommending a lender to you. We simply refer our clients to people that we know, like, trust, have worked with in the past, and we know that they're going to do a good job for you. One of the main reasons to get pre-approved is that when you present an offer to the seller does not want to take their home off of the market and risk losing out on other offers if you're not even pre-approved yet. We don't know if you can qualify for a loan. We don't know if you can afford this particular house. Maybe the seller is asking $200,000, but you're only going to qualify for $170,000. That's a problem. We need to know upfront exactly what your budget is so that we are only looking at houses you can afford. So that is the end of the first video. I hope that this was not too much information to sit down and digest at one time. Look for video number 2 coming shortly, where we are going to talk about the next few steps in the process. I'm Karin Carr, Keller Williams Coastal Area Partners in Savannah, Georgia. Thank you so much for watching.